The hidden strength of silence. In a world that constantly talks, silence has become rare and powerful. We are surrounded by sound. From endless notifications to non-stop conversations, our lives are filled with noise, much of it loud, fast, and forgettable. In this climate, silence can feel awkward or even threatening. And yet, silence holds a strange and enduring allure. It appears empty, even passive, but is often full of meaning, presence, and strength. There is a quiet paradox at play. The less said, the more heard. True wisdom seems to resist the need for constant expression. Why is it that those with the most profound insights, the sages, the thinkers, the visionaries, are so often the ones who speak the least? What is it that silence allows them to see or say that speech cannot? This brings us to the heart of a deeper understanding, one echoed in the words of the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. Silence is the element in which great things fashion themselves. For Schopenhauer, silence wasn't mere absence. It was a fertile space, a medium in which thought deepens, ideas mature, and the self can encounter truth without distortion. As we begin to explore the hidden strength of silence, we're invited not to fill the void, but to listen to it, to consider what grows in stillness and why it matters now more than ever. Silence in a noisy world. In today's culture, noise reigns. Social media never sleeps, meetings spill into one another, and debates often devolve into contests of who can speak louder, faster, or more often. The digital world rewards immediacy over insight, and we are praised not for what we understand, but for how quickly we react. In this climate, constant talking becomes the norm, and silence, especially deliberate silence, is mistaken for passivity, weakness, or disinterest. Yet silence can be one of the strongest expressions of self-control and depth. It suggests a kind of inner abundance that doesn't require constant validation. The wise throughout history have cultivated quiet, not out of shyness, but out of strength. A deliberate choice to listen, to observe, to wait before speaking. The more aware one becomes of the noise around them, the more valuable silence appears. Talking too much is often a defense, a way to fill what we fear in silence. What we fear, perhaps, is the confrontation with our own emptiness or the stillness that demands reflection. Arthur Schopenhauer, the German philosopher, warned against the seductions of shallow noise and empty chatter. For him, the constant need to talk was not a sign of sociability, but of intellectual poverty. He believed that most conversations are an escape from thought, a way to avoid the discomfort of confronting real ideas or feelings. When everyone is talking, he argued, no one is really thinking. Noise becomes a mask, not a message. True wisdom often speaks quietly, or not at all. In a world where value is increasingly confused with volume, silence is a radical act. It asserts that understanding matters more than opinion, that listening is not weakness, and that reflection takes time. The inner world of the wise may be quiet, but it is never empty. It is there, in stillness, that clarity begins. The psychology of silence. Silence is often misunderstood as emptiness or awkwardness, but psychologically, it carries profound emotional strength. Choosing silence, especially in emotionally charged moments, demonstrates self-regulation, the ability to pause, reflect, and resist the impulse to react. In stressful situations, the brain's amygdala can hijack responses, but silence allows the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for reasoning and reflection, to regain control. This pause can mean the difference between reacting and responding. Silence is also a powerful tool for ego control. The ego often demands recognition, the last word, or validation. Choosing silence over immediate self-defense or confrontation reflects humility and confidence. It signals that a person does not need external affirmation to maintain self-worth. This restraint aligns with emotional maturity and inner stability. Furthermore, silence reveals a person's comfort with themselves. Those uneasy in their own company often fill the void with noise or distraction. In contrast, emotionally resilient individuals use silence to reconnect with their thoughts, process emotions, and recharge. Cognitive science shows that the brain needs quiet moments to consolidate memory, understand experiences, and integrate learning, functions that constant stimulation can interrupt. Wisdom often speaks through silence. Think of figures like the Buddha or Socrates, known not just for what they said, but for how they listened and reflected. They understood that silence invites depth, clarity, and understanding. In a world saturated with noise and quick opinions, choosing silence isn't withdrawal, it's mastery. Wise people don't fear silence, they harness it, knowing that in stillness, the mind becomes sharper, the ego softens, and true insight can emerge. Silence as strategy, power in conversations. In the realm of human interaction, silence is often misunderstood as passivity or weakness. Yet, in many situations, it serves as a potent tool of influence and control. Consider a heated argument between two colleagues. One is shouting, eager to dominate the conversation, while the other remains silent, meeting the tirade with calm stillness. The silence, rather than indicating surrender, unsettles the aggressor. It creates an emotional vacuum, forcing them to question their own outburst. This absence of verbal defense shifts power. The silent party now commands the emotional tone. In high-stakes negotiations, silence can be even more tactical. Imagine a business deal where one party proposes terms and then falls silent. The pause is not discomfort, but design. It compels the other side to speak, often revealing more than they intended. Negotiators know this as the silent close, a strategic pause that unsettles, invites concessions, or exposes the true priorities of the other side. Leadership, too, is marked by strategic silence. A seasoned CEO listening during a tense boardroom meeting doesn't rush to offer opinions. Instead, she waits, observing who speaks, how they react, and where alliances form. Her silence signals composure, control, and an ability to think before reacting, qualities that inspire confidence. When she finally speaks, her words carry more weight precisely because they are rare. Silence creates anticipation. It disrupts the rhythm of rapid exchange and forces others to fill the void, often revealing their hand. It demonstrates control, not only over others, but, more importantly, over oneself. As philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, "Silence is not submission. It is often the clearest expression of dominance, of inner mastery." In this view, silence is less about retreat than assertion. It says, "I do not need to prove my power. I hold it already." In conversation, silence is never empty. It is a space charged with potential, waiting to be read. Those who master it hold a subtle but undeniable authority. Silence in leadership and professional life. In leadership, silence is often more powerful than words. A talkative boss may dominate conversations, issue constant instructions, and seek to impress with verbosity. In contrast, the quiet, observant leader listens more than they speak, choosing words carefully and strategically. This restraint cultivates a deeper understanding of people and situations, allowing them to lead with clarity and precision. Effective leaders use silence to listen. They give team members space to express ideas, concerns, and solutions. This fosters trust, shows respect, and often uncovers insights that would be missed in a more one-sided conversation. In meetings, the quiet leader pays close attention, reading between the lines and picking up on tone, body language, and group dynamics. They also use silence to observe. Whether in team settings, job interviews, or negotiations, pausing before responding gives them time to assess motives, evaluate authenticity, and think critically. A silent pause before answering can subtly shift the dynamic, drawing attention, commanding presence, and demonstrating thoughtful leadership. When it comes to public speaking or business proposals, silence used effectively between key points adds weight and drama. It emphasizes impact, allowing audiences time to absorb and reflect. In job interviews, a thoughtful pause before responding can convey confidence, clarity, and composure. Ultimately, silence isn't absence, it's presence. It shows that the leader is fully engaged, intentional, and reflective. As the saying goes, the leader who speaks last is often the one most remembered. By choosing silence at the right moments, great leaders shape conversations, influence decisions, and leave lasting impressions. Silence in relationships and conflict. Silence, often misunderstood as avoidance or disengagement, can be a powerful tool in nurturing relationships and managing conflict. In romantic partnerships, heated arguments can escalate quickly when emotions override reason. Imagine a couple locked in a disagreement, voices rising, accusations flying. One partner, instead of retaliating, chooses silence. Not the cold, dismissive kind, but a pause. This moment of silence can de-escalate tension, giving both space to breathe and preventing words that may later cause regret. It's a quiet signal that the goal is understanding, not victory. In friendships, silence plays a more subtle but equally profound role. Consider a friend going through grief or a personal crisis. Sometimes, no words are sufficient. Simply sitting beside them in silence, without advice, questions, or distractions, can communicate volumes. This quiet presence says, "I see you, I'm with you," and builds trust in a way that words often cannot. In conflict, the impulse to win an argument is strong, driven by ego and the need to be right. But choosing silence over combat shifts the energy. It transforms the interaction from reaction to reflection. Instead of plotting a counterpoint, silence invites us to actually hear the other person. It gives space to process, to soften, and to respond with empathy rather than defensiveness. Listening in this way becomes a silent act of love. It's a decision to honor the other person's voice, to offer respect not by speaking, but by being fully present. When we listen without interrupting, correcting, or rushing to respond, we say, "You matter. Your feelings matter." Silence, then, is not emptiness. It's presence. It's a pause that allows healing, understanding, and connection to grow. In the loud world of arguments and opinions, silence is a gentle, powerful language of care. Silence versus pride. Knowing when not to speak. The desire to have the last word often stems not from necessity, but from ego. Pride urges us to explain ourselves, defend our image, or assert dominance in a conversation. In doing so, we may feel momentarily triumphant, but at what cost? Pride whispers that silence is weakness, that not speaking concedes defeat. But in truth, silence often takes greater strength. Lao Tzu said, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." This points to the quiet confidence of the wise, those who do not need validation through argument or explanation. They recognize that clarity and truth do not always require vocal defense. Consider a heated argument between close friends. One feels misunderstood and lashes out. The other, rather than retaliating or justifying their actions, chooses silence. This isn't passive avoidance, it's active restraint. In that silence, emotions cool. The dignity of both is preserved. Had pride taken the wheel, the relationship might have suffered irreparable harm over words spoken in haste. In professional settings, too, silence can be powerful. When criticized unfairly in a meeting, a person might feel the urge to respond defensively. But sometimes, a calm silence, paired with a clear action later, can speak louder than any rebuttal. It shows maturity, focus, and confidence. Silence, when chosen wisely, is not surrender, but strategy. It shows mastery over one's ego and an understanding that not every comment demands a reply. Pride wants noise. Wisdom prefers quiet strength. The energy of silence, protecting your inner world. In a world of constant noise, notifications, conversations, and endless demands, silence has become a rare and precious resource. Far from emptiness, silence holds power. It preserves our energy, sharpens focus, and reinforces self-respect by creating space between reaction and response. Silence acts as a buffer, protecting our mental and emotional reserves from depletion. In moments of quiet, we reclaim attention lost to distraction. Our minds settle, and we become more aware of what truly matters. This clarity enhances focus and allows for deeper, more intentional living. Rather than being swept up by the chaos of the external world, silence helps us ground ourselves, protecting the integrity of our inner landscape. Practices like meditation and mindfulness embrace this stillness. Through them, we reconnect with the breath, the present moment, and ultimately, our inner self. These practices cultivate an awareness that is both calming and energizing, restoring balance where overstimulation once ruled. In silence, we hear the whisper of intuition and strengthen our ability to respond rather than react. Silence also teaches self-respect. Choosing not to speak in situations that demand reflection rather than reaction is a form of personal empowerment. It's a quiet assertion of boundaries, a declaration that not all energy deserves our attention. In a chaotic world, silence isn't an escape. It's a return to ourselves, our values, and our natural rhythm. Embracing silence, even briefly, allows us to move through life with greater resilience, clarity, and peace. The rhythm of silence and speech. Effective communication is not about constant talking, it's about balance, the rhythm between silence and speech. Silence doesn't mean never speaking. Rather, it enhances the power of spoken words by creating space for reflection and anticipation. Alternating between speech and silence can create profound impact. A well-timed pause, for instance, allows the audience to absorb what has just been said. It punctuates the message and draws attention to key points. Similarly, withholding a response can build suspense, making listeners eager for what comes next. This technique heightens emotional tension and deepens engagement. The carefully chosen word gains strength when surrounded by silence. Instead of drowning in a flood of words, select phrases resonate more when given breathing room. The silence around them acts like a spotlight, amplifying their meaning. Consider public speakers like Martin Luther King Jr., whose pauses during the "I Have a Dream" speech emphasized crucial ideas. His strategic silences allowed listeners to feel the weight of his words, holding their attention and evoking strong emotions. These pauses were not empty. They were purposeful, shaping the rhythm of his delivery and making his message unforgettable. In essence, the interplay of silence and speech crafts a compelling narrative. It transforms communication from mere talking into an artful dialogue where every word and pause matters. The timeless power of silence. Silence is often mistaken for passivity, but in truth, it is a profound form of mastery. It is a deliberate choice, a powerful tool that reflects wisdom rather than weakness. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer captured this essence perfectly when he said that the wise preserve their energy by avoiding meaningless noise. Silence allows us to conserve our mental and emotional strength, focusing it where it truly matters. In a world that constantly bombards us with noise, literal and figurative, embracing silence can be revolutionary. Whether in moments of conflict, decision-making, or deep self-reflection, silence provides clarity and calm. During conflict, it prevents escalation, allowing space for understanding and thoughtful response. In decision-making, silence opens the door to insight, enabling us to hear our true instincts rather than reacting impulsively. And in self-reflection, silence becomes the canvas where we meet ourselves honestly, free from distraction and noise. To cultivate silence is to cultivate wisdom. It is a quiet power that ripples outward, influencing how we think, feel, and relate to the world around us. So, next time you find yourself overwhelmed by the urge to fill every moment with words or noise, pause. Remember that perhaps the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all.